Making affordable small cars for the common person is an Italian specialty. This tradition began in the 1930s with the first series production compact to boast a four-cylinder engine, the Fiat 500, better known as the Topolino. Our classic car expert Christoph Bauer explains the origin of the little mouse. He says that in 1933, Fiat patriarch Giovanni Agnelli commissioned a 29-year-old engineer named Dante Giacosa to develop an economical small car. Its selling price was to be not more than 5,000 lira, just half that of a Fiat Palmilla, the company's cheapest model at the time. And the new car needed to be more comfortable, powerful, and good-looking than the competition from Germany and France. Christoph feels that was a tall order for a young engineer, but when it went into production in 1936, the Fiat 500 fulfilled all of the criteria but one. It cost 8,900 lira, not 5,000. Still, a pretty fair price, Christoph thinks. Beginning in 1936, the little Fiat was assembled on a modern production line at the carmaker's Lingotto plant in Turin. By 1954, some 520,000 A, B, and C model Topolinos had been built. Aside from the sedan, the 500 was also available as a station wagon, initially called the Giardiniera, and later the Belvedere. But how did the Fiat 500 come to be known as the Topolino? Christoph says that in the early 1930s, Walt Disney's Mickey Mouse became popular in Italy. But due to licensing issues, Mickey was known here as Topolino, or Mauslino. And because the 500's freestanding headlights bear a slight resemblance to Mickey's ears, it soon was given the nickname Topolino. The Fiat 500 proved to be robust, durable, and fuel efficient. It has rear-wheel drive, like most models of its day. But other than that, its basic structure is very similar to that of modern compacts. Christoph says the Topolino seats two adults comfortably, with space for luggage behind the seats. There's no trunk lid. You could fit two children in back here. But Christoph says Italians love to fill their Topolinos up to the roof. And if it had a nice, soft top like this one, then even beyond that. No one cared that the maximum payload was just 50 kilos. But then Fiat had sold it as a fully fledged car. By 1938, Fiat had equipped the axles with longer leaf springs, so carrying lots of cargo was no longer an issue. The magazine Motor und Sport says the Topolino could travel 100 kilometers on 7.5 liters of gas, the best fuel consumption ever seen at the time. Later, 500B models, like this one, used just 5 liters per 100 clicks, though likely a bit more when going uphill.
Mit nur 5 Litern aufkommen. Wenn es einen Berg rauf geht, vielleicht auch mehr.
When it comes to design, Christoph says the Topolino is clearly influenced by the streamlined shapes that were popular in the 1930s. Even the door handles are sunken to improve the car's drag coefficient. He notes that only when the body is secured to the light ladder frame does the Topolino have the necessary stiffness. It was a clever way of reducing the car's weight, which also lowered its cost and fuel consumption. For the same reason, parts of the frame were perforated, a technique that had previously only been used in airplanes and race cars. And the car also used these little 15-inch wheels, specially made by Pirelli, which made the car look big and dynamic. This Topolino belongs to the relatively rare B series, which was only built from 1948 to 1949. Its much-loved retractable textile roof came as standard, and a redesigned dashboard pepped up the car's Spartan interior. But the model's most important improvements are to be found under the hood. Christoph says the main difference between the Fiat 500B and its predecessor is the engine. While the A used a side valve engine, the B had overhead valves. This technical innovation gave the car a big power boost, from 13 horsepower to 16.5 horsepower. Usually, the radiator is found up here, behind the engine, enabling the car to have a sleek and aerodynamic front end. And of course, Fiat put the engine as far forward as possible to create more interior space. So, while the firm was bent on saving money, they didn't scrimp on technology. Christoph says the only drawback is the crankshaft, which only has two main bearings. So after just 50,000 kilometers, the engine often needs an overhaul. But the throaty-sounding inline four-cylinder engine has to work pretty hard. Its 0.6 liters of cubic capacity means it can reach just 95 kilometers an hour. Just enough for the Autostrada, Italian motorways. But the Topolino is best for winding its way through narrow city streets, like here in Trentino. Christoph says for people with big feet like him, the car's not so easy to drive because the pedals are so close together. But otherwise, it's great fun to drive around with the wind in your hair. And in its day, the Topolino impressed car testers too. One German magazine praised its low center of gravity, good weight distribution, and great road holding. But first and second gears aren't synchronized, so when downshifting, you really need to double declutch. But Italians love to do that anyway. They call it la doppietta. Topolinos weren't just popular in Italy. They were exported around the globe, to as far away as China, Australia, and the U.S. The little Fiat was also produced under license by NSU in Germany, Steyr-Puch in Austria, and Simca in France. Christoph says the Topolino was Italy's best-selling car until the mid-1950s. Some 520,000 were built. It brought mobility to the masses in Italy, like the VW Beetle did in Germany and the Citroën 2CV did in France. With its lightweight construction and quality technology, it was years ahead of the competition, and it established the Fiat brand as specialist for stylish, high-quality, small cars, making the Topolino a milestone in automotive history. Dante Giacosa, the Topolino's creator, worked for Fiat for almost half a century, developing dozens of other models for the car maker. Fiat later revived the 500 name and continues to produce 500 badge Super Minis to this day.